Welcome into another episode of the Los Angeles Rams Insider Podcast on Sports Illustrated. I'm your host, Tom Cavanaugh, your LA Rams Insider. Follow me at TCAV30 on Twitter/X and follow our insider pages at Rams Insider on SI, both on Twitter/X and on Facebook. Rams fans, you're number one in the division. After the loss last night from the Seattle Seahawks, who had, just got handled by the Green Bay Packers at home. Handled. Green Bay played great. Seattle did not. Geno Smith banged up late in that ball game. Packers get a big win, and that puts your Los Angeles Rams in first place. Now, both teams are tied at 8-6 currently right now after the Rams got a big win against the Niners last Thursday night. That put them in a great position, only needing a loss from Seattle to get tied up. And because the Rams back in Week 9 beat the Seahawks in overtime, remember the great catch from Demarcus Robinson, one hand over the shoulder in OT, incredible game, incredible finish. The Rams had the tiebreaker currently with a tied record at 10-6. And there's 3 games left to play in this season. So when you kind of look at it here, these two teams will play in Week 18. There is a very, very good chance that these records could be tied up. Very similar record going into that game. And there's a chance even that game, depending on who wins it, could become tied up. And then you go down the list of tiebreakers because when you look at the NFL tiebreaker, it's all about head-to-head record. Then it's best win-loss tie record, or percentage, I should say, in games played within the division. So it's your best divisional record, which right now the Rams are 3-1 and the Seahawks are 3-2. Seattle's already played one more divisional game than the Rams have. Last 2 games on Los Angeles' ticket is going to be the Arizona Cardinals and Seattle. So they'll finish up with the most important games of their season. Let's say the Rams do win both of those games and they finish. Let's say they lose to the Jets this weekend and then they go on to beat Arizona and Seattle. They would be 10-7, the same record as last year, and they would be holding a 5-1 record in the division. That no doubt gets them the first place spot in the division and a playoff spot as well. And the reason you know that there's going to be some implications with these last 2 games for the Rams is right now on the schedule, they're both to be determined, which means they're going to be flexed games. Basically, they're going to alter the time to put it into a primetime spot so that all eyes can be on this game because there's going to be a lot of implications when it comes to the playoffs between Seattle and Los Angeles. I guess you could count Arizona in there a little bit. Cardinals, they're 7-7 again, still making a push, but they are at 1 game back of the top 2 teams, Rams and Seahawks. Niners, pretty much no shot to make it, so they're kind of out of the conversation. And right now, it's really just Rams and Seattle in the conversation for that NFC West championship. So if the Rams finish 10-7, it would be great if they finished 11-6, win out the rest of their games. They go on a 6-game winning streak to finish out the year. They'd actually win 7 of their last 8 games, which is what they did a year ago to clinch a 10-7 record. That would be unbelievable if they mimicked what they did last year to find a playoff spot. It's definitely possible. Beating the Jets is more than likely for this team this coming Sunday. They are going to be playing at 1:00 p.m., which is 10 a.m. On the West Coast over there. So it's going to be an early rise for this team, but they've been great on the road. They went on the road to beat San Francisco last week. They went on the road 3 weeks ago to beat New Orleans. 2 weeks before that, back in the middle of November, they played New England. That was a East Coast game at 1:00. They took care of business there, and then they went on to beat Seattle back in Week 9 at the beginning of November, 26-20 in overtime. So they've won their last 4 road games. I see the Rams getting another win this time over the Jets. You move on to 9-6. Seattle's got a tough game this week. They got to play the Minnesota Vikings, one of the best teams in the NFL right now. This is no slouch of a schedule down the stretch for Seattle. So if Seattle loses this week, and the Rams pick up a win against the Jets in a non-divisional, they'll be 9-6. 8-7 will be the Seahawks, and you got a full game lead plus the tiebreaker going into your final 2 games. That's a very likely scenario to happen come out of this week. But regardless of that Jets game, your most important games on the schedule are weeks 17 and 18. If they do beat Arizona and New York, they'll be sitting pretty at 10-6. And a loss to Seattle, you would likely need Seattle to lose one of their next 2 games against Minnesota and Chicago before coming on to Week 18. Because if the Rams and the Seahawks are tied up, same record and are both 4-2 in the division, 3-2 in the division, because the Rams would play in Week 17 against Arizona. Let's saying they lose that game, the Rams would then be they would hold a 3-2 record in the division, which is where Seattle will be at within the division come Week 18. So if both teams are 3-2 in the division, the winner of that game is going to go to the playoffs. That's just kind of how it is. Now, obviously, if Seattle goes on a little bit of a losing streak and they have a worse record, and the Rams still lose that game but have a better record than Seattle in Week 18, they will still go. Right now, I mean, the Rams took care of business early on in the year. After losing Week 2 to Arizona, 41-10, they've ripped off 3 straight divisional wins. If they get one against Arizona and move to 4-1, there's a chance that Week 18 game, depending on what Seattle does over the course of the next 2 weeks, that game might not mean as much. The Rams could still be locked in for the NFC West, win or lose in that ball game. So there's a lot of different scenarios as you're watching me kind of talk through it, work through it in my mind. Obviously, you want the Rams to go out and win all of their games to finish out the year, go 10-7. 11-6, it would be if they won all their games. But, being able to do all that is, I mean, that's tough. Go on a 6-game winning streak to finish out your season, but it's definitely possible. There's a lot of different scenarios that can happen, but the one thing is this Rams team is really, really looking good. Winners of 4 of their last 5, 7 of their last 9 games after starting 1-4. Just really impressive stuff by head coach Sean McVay and his group to really pivot and turn and take down some very good teams. Minnesota, Seattle on the road. You lose to the Eagles, and then you bounce back with wins against Buffalo and San Francisco. I mean, that's resiliency right there. And they got to go on the road, as we mentioned, take on New York at MetLife, and then they're going to head back home for their final 2 games, both at SoFi Stadium against the Cardinals and Seahawks, to see where this team lands in the NFC West and if they can win their 4th divisional title since 2017. This has been the Los Angeles Rams Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Cavanaugh. Follow me at TCAV30 on Twitter/X and our insider pages at Rams Insider on SI, both on Twitter/X and Facebook. Thanks so much, everybody. We will see you again tomorrow.